This podcast replay is brought to you by Pallet Rack City, 305-887-9212. It's your one-stop shop for all your warehouse needs. They buy and sell new and used pallet racking, largest used racking inventory in South Florida. You want a great rack? Go to Pallet Rack City, 305-887-9212.
Andy Behrens segment, which we do a little fantasy basketball every week here on the show, like I said, normally on Mondays, but yesterday we were driving from Miami to Mobile, so today we are settled in for the week. We'll be driving back on Friday, actually. So Andy Behrens.
We finally have Mr. Behrens missing 2 weeks. He's on.
Yes, sir. From Yahoo Fantasy, baby. So you can follow him on Twitter at Andy Behrens. You can catch his fantastic work there. And, of course, get the edge on your competition in a little fantasy basketball. Andy, good afternoon, my friend, or good morning, actually. In your good morning in my case, good afternoon in yours.
Good day, sir. Yes, man, having a good time at the doing a little draft prep. Are you?
Yes. Last week East West, and this week Senior. We've been doing it for 21 years, so I've been doing this craziness every year to kind of get our draft prep going and talk to the NFL
folks. If you need my measurements, I believe I'm 6'3", 175. Hand size is just shy of 10 inches. I think I'm a pretty solid prospect.
Yes, I think so. I think we got to get you out here running some routes, bro. See if you can help out an NFL team out there. Speaking of helping, my man, Bill and I are contemplating, because it's just $30 to get in, but we're thinking of maybe driving an hour and 45 minutes and going over to New Orleans to see Zion Williamson and his debut tomorrow in New Orleans. What do you think? Should we make the drive for the debut?
Oh, hell yeah. This is one of the most exciting moments of the NBA season to this point, right? We've barely seen Zion. You'd probably be spending a little bit over $1 a minute because we only expect him to play 20 minutes or so in his debut. He was hyper efficient in the preseason. I was actually fortunate enough to see one of his only appearances on an NBA floor, and that was a preseason game against the Bulls. He went 12 of 13, scored 29 points in like less than 3 quarters. He's going to be really fun. The potential impact here is almost unknown on the Pelicans, I suppose, because Brandon Ingram's been having this crazy breakout season, delivering essentially first-round fantasy value, and we have to assume that he loses a little bit in terms of usage. But Zion really figures to be a player who has such gravity that it can plausibly help Ingram as well. One of the really nice things about Zion is that you don't like. This was at least the case in the preseason. You don't even have to run a lot of stuff for him. Like he can get points in all sorts of ways, and he's just a hyper efficient scorer from the floor. He shot 75% on all 2-point attempts in college, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Not a particularly great 3-point shooter, not particularly great at the line, but there's going to be defensive goodies here. Just a lot to like in terms of his fantasy profile. One of the things that we really worried about with Zion when he eventually returned was that, maybe he's not going to play many back-to-backs. But here's the thing. When you look at New Orleans' schedule, they don't have any back-to-backs until March, not until March. And only one of those, like if he misses one of those games, only one of those would result in a 2-game week for him in fantasy. So I just feel like it's all systems go, and maybe he takes a couple games to get his minutes up and his win back. But this is just really exciting. I think his ceiling is basically top 35 fantasy asset over the rest of the season.
You mean the ceiling's not the roof?
I'm not sure if the ceiling is the roof. I don't know that. Whatever that means, I don't know that Zion could actually be, the number one player in fantasy, but it's going to be awfully exciting. I think, we're talking about somebody who's going to be a 5 or 6 fantasy category asset.
Do you think of trading Brandon Ingram at all, just because you're afraid of? I don't think so, right? They need the scoring. I don't really think it's going to affect him that much, right? I can't see that.
Zion's not going to come in as a guy who's getting 30 shots a game or
right.
like
He's not even a shooter. He's not even a
Right.
shooter.
He's not going to be James Harden in terms of usage. And in fact, Zion can get 15 points a game just putbacks and energy and transition, right? Like a lot of his scoring isn't even necessarily going to come by design. He's just so good at getting himself to the rim. Obviously, Ingram has established himself as kind of the alpha in that offense right now. And I have no problem imagining Ingram's roughly his point production continuing. There might be some natural regression with Ingram anyway, because I think he's still shooting over 40% from three, and that he wasn't close to that at any other point in his career. So maybe he gives away a little bit there, but I don't think he's going to give away a ton just because Zion returns.
Now, let me ask you something. Andy Behrens, of course, from Yahoo Fantasy, joining us. Michael Porter and his breakout. Is this what we were expecting? Is it a time to sell high? Well, how do you look at this whole thing with Michael Porter Jr.?
Well, so he just played a terrific game against Minnesota. 20 points, 14 boards, 4 assists. Like there's been defensive goodies too over the last couple of weeks. It's 2 steals a night. It's a block every game. He's been really fun. Some of this, of course, is because you look at all the shots that aren't available to Denver right now, right? Like Paul Millsap is out, and Gary Harris is out, and Jamal Murray is out indefinitely. So playing time has not been a concern at all for Porter Jr. But he's really made the most of it. I mean, this is double-digit scoring in 5 straight games. Really good rebounder, very good shooter. Looks like an absolute building block for that team. And Mike Malone has come out and said that Porter Jr. is going to continue to be a part of the rotation moving forward through the end of the season. That was the concern early in the year. You know, there were some DNPs in there. This kid's really good, and he's the obvious replacement long term for Paul Millsap. We can assume that's going to happen if he just settles in at 20 to 25 minutes a game. I think he's a guy who's got to be owned in every fantasy league, and he's still available in about 40% of Yahoo leagues.
Wow, that's crazy. He would be available by this time. I mean, he was taken in our league from the draft. I mean, that somebody took a flyer on him and stashed him from the get-go, and it's really paid off in a big-time way. All right, so Derrick Rose, what's the latest on the trade rumors?
Man, I'm such a Derrick Rose apologist and always will be. Absolutely love him. We saw some rumors this week via Yahoo Sports, actually, that the Lakers and the Sixers have been involved in preliminary talks with Rose. I think Reggie Jackson actually comes back relatively soon. Now, we can probably expect him to get injured again. But that would be a ding to Rose's value if he stays in Detroit. I just think he'd be a wonderful fit in Philly. That's kind of what you're rooting for. Like, it seems more likely than not that Derrick would get dealt. And if that happens, like, Philadelphia is just such a natural landing spot. I don't quite get the interest from the Lakers. I mean, the Lakers should be interested in adding talent, but it's not like, you know, Rose has made strides as a shooter, but his greatest skill is obviously still penetration of the basket. And that's not like, you're going to have LeBron James handle the ball 100% of the time when he's on the floor, right, and initiate offense. Derrick Rose isn't like a floor spacer. He's not somebody who's just going to hang out around the arc. And, you know, it's just not the highest and best use of D Rose. So I find the Lakers fit to be a little bit strange. I wouldn't be surprised about the Clippers having interest in it, but really, like, if he moves to the Sixers, that's just such a natural, perfect fit. You know, he's got rim protectors behind him. He can initiate some offense if they get into difficult situations in the postseason where maybe you don't want the ball in Ben Simmons' hands the whole time. Like, Derrick is just a great fit on that team. That's kind of what just as a D Rose fan, that's kind of what I'm rooting for. And that is also the place where I would expect him to lose almost no value in terms of fantasy. And
who gains the most from him parting from there?
Yeah, again, we think Reggie Jackson is going to be able to come back pretty soon. He would be an obvious winner. Like, there's going to be more shots all around for guys like Kennard, for Tony Snell. So they could gain a little bit, but we have to figure that the Pistons are going to make, like, if they're dealing Rose, they're dealing other players as well. They're gonna cash all the chips, and we'll have to see what's left on the roster after Rose is gone. But finally,
Christian,
be a win for him.
So finally, Christian Wood will pay off for me since I stashed him.
Oh gosh, that's just killing me. That's just going to be the agonizing story of the year, right? Like,
Yeah.
He's so good on a per minute basis, and it's already that's already proven. We've seen it in prior years. Once Drummond goes, and we assume that Drummond is going to have to get dealt. Once that happens, there's just going to be no reason not to throw Wood out on the floor for 30 minutes a game.
No, I'm with you. You got to sport Wood. I mean, come on. All right, let's go with the top fantasy pickups this week. Give us a couple guys out there you think we should be looking at.
Yeah, in a shallow league, I'm a little bit surprised to see Derek Culver still so widely available. Not yet 50% owned. He's just been an all-category guy, and the shooting percentages have looked a lot better for Culver of late. You mentioned Christian Wood. I still like him as a stash, even though he's hardly helping. Damian Lee has got his contract situation sort of settled in Golden State. Looks like he's going to have minutes until Steph Curry comes back. And according to all reports, Curry is going to come back in March, so that's going to be a ding for Lee. But the guy that I like probably more than anyone hanging out there right now is Monty Morris in Denver. We mentioned the injury situation for them. Gary Harris out, Millsap out, Jamal Murray out indefinitely with a nasty ankle sprain. That's going to mean a ton of burn for Morris. Game yet since the Murray injury, but you just look at his per 36 numbers; they're so good. 14 points per game per 36, almost 7 assists a game, over a steal per game. He's shooting incredible percentages from not just this year but last year as well from the 3-point line. He can basically be a 40% shooter from the 3-point line. You love to see that. Just a really efficient player. Going to be plenty of assists there, plenty of usage for however long Murray is out.
Follow him on Twitter at Andy Behrens. More importantly, you want an edge on your competition, go to Yahoo Fantasy, and you will get that, my friend. As always, Andy, appreciate it, my brother. Thank you for taking some time. Sport the wood and get the big win.
Thanks, Big O. Have fun down there.
You got it, my brother. We definitely will. We always do. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I know Bill's already having fun. He already took him to Winchell's yesterday. So Winchell's, once you get Winchell's, once you go to Winchell's, that's like a staple in this place.